Hello, Lou Hamilton from Audible Elegance here in Cincinnati, Ohio. We are located on Montgomery Road, a couple doors north of the original Montgomery Inn, and across the street from Montgomery Cyclery. I do a monthly blog on our website, audibleelegance.com. My staff does the work on Facebook, X, and Instagram. Today I thought I would revisit turntables. We're going to use a Riga P2 for part of this. And to help people understand the scales and the geometry involved in properly setting up a turntable. If we were to make this in human scale, essentially what you have is someone in a bobsled picking up boulders at 60 miles an hour, controlled by a pivot point that's 3 miles away. So you can imagine what precision would be required in order to have things right. Now, some manufacturers will provide an overhang gauge. Technics used to have a little plastic one to help you set up, which was very nice of them. Some people will give you a paper template like this. This is what Riga does, okay, to get you in the ballpark. And as you can see from their template, they want things lined up straight and not crooked. And about 95% of all the turntables we've had to work with, straight as possible. But there are 5% of what I would call junk, where you actually have to twist the cartridge in order to get it straight so it looks really goofy in the head shell. And that's because the engineering was fraught with disaster from ground zero. Now, if you have a table where they don't have a guide, then there is a product called Denison, and it's called a protractor. And they made it in both aluminum as well as plastic. And what is done in order to determine where the set down point should be is you have to get this set so that it sits literally in the crosshairs of the tone arm, so it's centered on both the horizontal and vertical bearings. So give me a minute here and I'll proceed to loosen up a few things to make that possible. So we have in general the position, and then you will have a small dot as to exactly where the stylus should be setting. And you will see that there's a grid which gives us the alignment, or whether it is straight or not. And this allows us to do quite a few ranges of turntables. So if you don't have a paper guide to at least get you in the ballpark, or some sort of overhang gauge provided by the manufacturer, just hauling off and throwing a couple screws and the clips on the cartridge, Lord knows what performance you're going to get. And we talked about that a little earlier when we had the Lin protractor out. And it too has the exact point set for their tone arms. And literally they have the arc that the styli should traverse so that it is properly sitting in the groove from inner to outer. Lin also has, as you can see, a strobe on here, but rather than being a 60 cycle, it's actually 300 cycles, which allows a much greater precision on a turntable where you can adjust the speed. There's not speed adjustments on Riga turntables, okay? And one of the things that's kind of funny is a lot of people get concerned about whether a turntable is absolute or whether it's slightly fast or slightly slow. And obviously you want it absolutely correct. But the last thing you want is a speed inaccuracy. In other words, going fast and slow and fast and slow. You're better off having it either slightly slow or slightly fast, because at least you have pitch consistency. Whereas if it's warbling this way, there's no pitch consistency at all. And that'll drive you absolutely nuts. So if you're, think of it as perhaps a transcription of a piece of work onto a different instrument. That changes the pitch, but it's still the same, recognizable as the same piece of music. There are also different ways of measuring tracking force. There are some that are fairly cheap. There are some that are fairly expensive. This is a Riga unit, so that we can actually measure to a fine degree the tracking force that the table is set up to accomplish. And if you have a tone arm like some of the Rigas where you don't have the plastic front spinning gauge, then getting even an inexpensive stylus force gauge is worth it. Some cartridges, tone arms rather, have a little plastic wheel in front that you zero out with the cartridge mounted, so that the tone arm essentially floats free and level to the surface. Once zeroed, then you twist the counterweight counterclockwise, and that'll essentially establish the tracking force that you should have for the cartridge. And we talk about this because we're not getting back into season where people are going to be enjoying their entertainment systems again. It's going to get cooler, and people will start enjoying the indoor activities again. So those are the basic tools that we use to set up turntables if you bring one in and need a cartridge. There we are.